the mic stand out of the way a little bit here. Anyway, well, hello everybody. Welcome to Tom's Guitar Show. I'm Tom. They call me Guitar Tom because I'm often seen with a guitar, or two or three. They call me on the phone. They used to call me on the phone back when this was a call-in show, and they'd say, "Hey man, what's your show about?" And I say, "Oh, it's about an hour. Guitar players, guitar playing, all things guitaristic." So I guess you really can't call in right now, but you could tweet me sometime if you want, or if you want to talk to me about it in the street somewhere. Check out Line of High V. These conversations happen on a more or less daily basis. Talk about the care and feeding of your guitar, what kind of guitar is right for you, how to fix your guitar, how to play your guitar, anything guitaristic like that. We could talk about the guitarron, guitarras, sitars, lutes, uzuelas, banjos, balaicas, bazookas, bajos, sextos, bajos, cincos, bandurias, and bandolims, and mandolins, and chitoles, and, lutes. Did I say lutes? I don't know. Anything with frets on it's cool, man. Shamisen if you want, that doesn't have frets on it, but you pluck it with a pick. Mandoras and mandolas, and I guess bandurias, bandolims, bandoras, citerns. The bandor and the citern, that was a heavenly duet back in the old days. Basically like a mandolin and a 12-string guitar only like 500 years ago. Anyway, that's how you can play oldies, right? 500 years? Anyway, accordions, ocarinas, pipe organs, piccolos, clarinets, clavinets, harmoniums and harpsichords, harps, I don't know, sackbuts, crumhorns, chordholts, anything, trombones, tromborinas, politics, world events, your own personality problems. We could talk about the weather, but everybody talks about the weather, but nobody does anything about it. Oh, I know, we did something about it. We heated up the ocean. So now the hurricanes have an amplifier. I have an amplifier, it's a Vox AC-10, but it's not exactly a hurricane, but...
You seem to have brought a collection of guitars tonight.
Yeah. Actually, what I have here is I have 3 American guitars. This is the Paul Reed Smith, PRS to you, Fela, and I've had it for a while. I brought it on the show. I kind of like it. I'm afraid it's pretty noisy. I think you can hear this. If I take off the this is actually a smart gate. It's a noise gate. You can hear that, can't you?
Didn't hear any difference.
Wow.
I've been hearing it hum all along, but I still hear it.
It's humming pretty hard for me here. Well, this isn't. There's a hum coming from the
I
lights.
think the lights are what I'm hearing.
There's kind of like a hiss coming out of the amp. I think that's just the amp. Yeah, because I just turned off the volume on the guitar. All right. But I'm okay. So I'm having a little bit of my own little identity crisis here, as far as sorry. First, you honor the show. So well, there's quite honestly. Okay, last week I went into West Music, and they have a deal there, I believe. I don't think I'm violating any confidences, and I don't really work for them. I guess I'll teach a class for them on Saturday, but it's well known their deal is if you buy a guitar there, you get a year's worth of free strings, just the store brand strings, which aren't they're SIT for stay in tune. Now there's a lie right there in the name of the strings. That's why they call them SITs instead of stay in tunes. But there we go. There we go. All right. I was gonna say here's Ray. There's Ray. Okay. Anyway, so I went in there to get my free strings, and I walked out with this guitar that's right over my shoulder, this shoulder actually, that one. And I'm going to play that a little later in the show. That's a special edition Fender. Very expensive. It hums at least as badly as this one does. Usually, who knows what it's like in this room. I think I'd start with this one. I didn't mean to buy this one either a couple years ago, whatever, but this is actually an excellent little guitar. It's the cheapest of the Paul Reed Smiths. If you don't know PRS, Paul Reed Smith is, some people say he has a big ego. I don't know. I never met the guy. Has a factory in and they make American-made guitars. This is made in Maryland in a factory there, and they make very expensive, fancy guitars. This is their attempt at a cheap one. It's still, it's still over $1,000 for one of these, but it's relatively inexpensive because you can get up to like $9,000 for Paul Reed Smith. 2 or 3 is not unusual. 4,000 is not unusual.
It sounds like giving away free guitar strings can be pretty profitable.
Yeah. Well, I had to pay for it. I'd have to pay full price for this one. I got I guess somebody else ordered it and they didn't want it. This thing, this and that, the other thing. And it's kind of used guitar. I got it basically new. Not that it really matters if a guitar is new or not. I mean, they last a long time. I got one hanging on my wall from the 1820s. It's not an electric guitar, obviously, but I have my Stratocaster that I almost brought, made in 1995. It's fine. It's great. They don't go stale.
They don't go obsolete every couple of years.
No, I mean, sometimes they do. There are certain. I have a student who when he was a kid getting out of high school, he bought a Fender. It's a kind of a Les Paul, but it was made out of plastic, sort of hard plastic. And he could afford it, and it said Gibson on it, but he never liked it. So, anyway. But I like this. This is made out of wood. It's got a really fancy kind of sparkly blue. Can't really see how sparkly it is on TV, but you can sort of see how it's got that metal flake paint job, blue, and I know. I'll play it for a little while. Yeah, Paul Reed Smith, Vela. And I have it on good authority that Vela means candle in Spanish. I asked Gerardo. And, I know velo is velo in French is a slang term for a bicycle. It's velocipede. Hey, tu as un vélo? Do you have a bicycle? And tu as un vélo? I learned how to speak kind of gutter French. When I was a teenager, I went to an inner city high school in Poitiers. And I lived among the other inner city high school kids. So I didn't exactly learn how to, have the elocution. They wouldn't make a guy like me into a newscaster in Paris. Hey, mon frère, qu'est-ce que tu fais, hein? Le clochard. Never mind. That was actually clean. What are you doing, you bum? Anyway, never mind. So I'm fond of this. I regretted getting it. And there's a method to my narrative. I regretted getting this at the time, but now I'm very happy to have it. I don't play it that often, but it's available whenever I need it.
Well, it looks good tonight. I know there's been a time or two that it made the chroma key behave strangely.
This one isn't so bad though. The green one, the greenish colored Reverend is my main problem. Which is too bad because actually, as far as one that has P90 pickups on it, P90s, it's like the best, the quietest, cleanest P90s I've ever had, but it's green. So this is some sort of single coil, Gretsch-like pickup here, and this is of course a humbucker. So one thing is like if I don't know if you can hear that at home, but it's buzzing out of the amp. Maybe you can't hear it over there, right?
Yeah, I heard it this time.
Okay. So if I flick it over here, I get the same thing, only just a little bit more. If I flick the switch over here, I get this thing, which is really quiet. This is a humbucker, which means two coils, but it sounds like it's a sharper sound because the strings are tighter over here, see? So it picks up the tightness of the strings. Up here, they're softer. If I'm up here, I get a sweeter sound.
The buzz up there, though.
But the buzz, because it's a single coil. This is double, so this is cancels it out. So if I just play like this, which is fine as far as it goes, but it's not really my thing, man. I want a nice, smooth sound. So that's why I use the Smart Gate, which has its problems too. So it's a gate. What it does is when there's no sound coming out of the guitar, it switches everything off, and then when it detects a note, it turns on. I mean, lets the note lets the current through. But the sound's still in there somewhere. It's just buried by the note. So you don't get a real clean sound. The other thing is if you don't have it set quite right, you can't like place quiet little notes. So if I went like, so you can hear that, but it's humming. But if I put it there, I can go, it's kind of muted. So I have to really play the thing. So it changes the way I play. Okay. All right. That has been fun. I'm going to get a different guitar, though, because it seems like I'm doing real well, so I'm going to mess everything up by getting another guitar. Here we go. Turn this down. Okay. Unplug this. And then I'll put this. Right there. Oops, okay, well, fine. This guitar that I'm attempting to fix to my body is a, oops, I lost my cord here. Okay. All right. Here's my, I've had this on the show a number of times. It keeps coming off. Okay, yeah, all right. I don't trust this strap. There we go. This here is a Fender Telecaster, but it's what they call an American Special. So actually, I heard they discontinued these, but now they seem to be available again. Saw one hanging up at the wall over there at West Music, just like this. In fact, when I was agonizing over some guitar decisions, I played this one, the one just like it. It was just like this. But okay, hang on. Okay, it's against my principles, but I'm starting to use these tuners more and more. I'm afraid I'll lose my ability to tune an instrument. It's so embarrassing. Oh, it's a Fender tuner too. Anyway, so this is the cheapest of the Telecasters. It's actually made in the USA. I have two of these. I have this one. I have another one that has a rosewood fingerboard. It's blue. Anyway, so I'll stick this right here. So this is actually a really, really nice Telly. I mean, it's made in California, but it's the cheapest one. They're usually like a little under $1,000. Maybe they're a little over $1,000, which, of course, you can get a Chinese one for less than half of that, and you can get a Mexican one for slightly more than half of that. But this is, I mean, it's better. I mean, it's good. It's a great guitar. I can hear it buzzing, though. So for some reason, sometimes this room is not so, it doesn't have so much electric interference. By the way, some people don't seem to care. They get all kinds of buzzes, bzzz, coming out of their amp. It bothers me. I want everything to be clean. So if I shut this off, it sounds like, you hear that, can't you, Bob?
No, I didn't hear that.
You don't hear this?
I hear the buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah, that I got.
Yeah, that's just one by itself.
That I can hear.
Yeah. But with this, it takes it away, except when I'm playing. Oh, why not? Problem is, I'm using the gate on this one. If I play the note softly, I can still hear the sound of that underneath it all. Well, I don't know what to think anymore. Actually, this doesn't sound too bad at home right now. I don't know if seems like my, it depends on the room. I have people tell me there's a place here in town, a little watering hole called the Yacht Club, in the basement of what used to be a funeral parlor. And I wonder what was down there in the old days. Never mind. But apparently, like there's some guitars that just really rattle down there. There's just terrible interference. It all depends on what's going through the air, what kind of electrons and stuff. So this is a bane of my existence. And I know I go to listen to people demonstrate different things on YouTube. And, the guy's playing the thing, and extolling the virtues, but it's just like buzzing horribly. And there's some guy trying out a pedal at the guitar shop. It's going bzzz when he's not playing. Doesn't seem to bother him at all. But I have an analogy, something that's analogous anyway. So I know a number of people who are like big-time hog farmers because I play in a restaurant, in Kelowna, and some people around there are like,
What restaurant is that?
Oh, I play at the Tuscan Moon.
When do you play there?
Oh, I'll be there Friday, Saturday night this week. I'm supposed to start 6. Maybe I'll start at 6. I don't know. I've been starting kind of early lately. 6 until whenever, 9, sometimes 10. Depends on how long the party lasts.
People need reservations these days?
I would say you should get reservations for sure, yeah. Especially if you want to be out in the patio. This may be your last chance for a while. Because
It's cooling off.
it'll snow out there eventually. It's been cooling off lately, but it's going to warm up a little bit on the weekend. It's supposed to be real nice. I'd make reservations. I'll be there. I'm going to start 6:30, something like that. I'll play till the party's over. I don't know what I'll play yet. I've been playing my jazz box, which is seems to have acquired some fret buzz. So that's another noise, but that's from the strings buzzing against the frets. The kind of noise I'm worried about here, this noise is electronic. It's the guitar being an antenna picking up whatever is going through the air, like those fluorescent lights we have. Anyway, where was I though? I was talking about something.
Tuscan Moon.
Yeah, I was at Tuscan Moon. I'm playing there this weekend, but there's something about. Yeah. Okay, so the buzzing and the humming and stuff like that doesn't bother some people. So I know a guy who has thousands and thousands of hogs and thousands of acres to grow corn and soybeans and things to feed those hogs and sell this grain on the commodities market. So if you like your BLT, your bacon, or your ham sandwich, you can thank Steve. I don't know if it's the same pig. Probably not. I mean, those are the yards. Anyway, your hot dogs. But anyway, so one time we had some flies, like more than your usual flies. And it hasn't really been, it's been a pretty good summer for flies, but one time it was kind of bad. They have a lot of horses, and they have a sale barn for horses there where they buy and trade and sell horses and stuff, because the Amish use horses, and it's an Amish town. So anyway, so there are a lot of flies buzzing around, and they buzz around your ears. Now I don't know how you feel about it, Bob, but
I prefer not to have flies buzzing around my ears.
yeah, well, I do too. I don't I have flies like they're walking up my arm, they're walking around my ear, things like that. And I'm trying to play guitar. I don't have a free hand to swat them away and stuff like that. I don't like that. This other guy, Steve, who's got he's got these huge barns, hog barns. They're like where they have like huge numbers of hogs living there, getting fattened up on his corn and beans and stuff, so they can become pork chops and ham and hot dogs and things. And so if I'm a farmer, that doesn't bother me, because he's used to swarms of flies, buzzing around his head, landing on him all over the place, and he doesn't even phase him, because he as a small child, he was going into hog barns. He was raised in a farming, so he's got that farmer thing, you see. Now, what's analogous is my first love is classical guitar, and how many classical guitarists does it take to screw in a light bulb?
They won't do it.
None. They won't touch anything electric. Right. So, my ideal thing, and I used to do this. I used to play I played some concerts in the sculpture court of the art museum
Of course, that is just a joke because you are a classical guitarist.
Right, well, that'd be funny to me, but yeah, I asked a joke because I'm holding this Telecaster and I got my noise reduction here and my looper. But so I played these concerts in the sculpture court of the now flooded out, since flooded out art building, art museum. For a number of years, I played in a Lutheran church. I'm not even a Lutheran or something. I think some of my ancestors were Germans, But I had a friend who was a pastor in a Lutheran church, and I used to play in his church for the services, and I'd also play recitals in there occasionally because it was a small church with a nice, ceiling and the big wooden beams and stuff like that.
Good acoustics.
Yeah, it was perfect. It was a small chapel, not tiny, but small. It was perfect for classical guitar. No amplification. Nobody's eating pizza, drinking beer, arguing, anything like that. Maybe a little rustle of people's programs in their laps, and of course coughing you'll have with you always.
The churches tend to be designed for good acoustics.
Right, they've been working on it for centuries in Europe, and a lot of these churches are just like copies of ones from their hometown in Europe, whoever built it. So So what I like is a really quiet room with a lot of headspace. Now I like reverb. There's reverb built in this little Vox amp. To tell you the truth, I like how this sounds to the Fender Princeton better, but this one was on top, and by the time I left, it was time to leave to get to here. I was running late and I was in a hurry. So, anyway, so when I'm nattering on about incoherently here is that I want just a clean sound. When I'm not playing, I want to hear just like nothing really. I mean maybe the birds are singing outside through that closed window. But nothing. Occasionally you have playing in church has a radiator, and then when it heats up, the metal expands. It goes bang. My brother records at St. Bridget's Church, which is a deconsecrated Catholic church out in the middle of nowhere. Back, in the old days, Bohemian farmers north of Iowa City used to have 50 or 80 acres of land. And there are a lot of them out there, and of course their houses have been bulldozed. They moved into town. Their houses were bulldozed, and the way of life is over. So the church is just sitting
Farms
there.
all got combined into 2,000-acre farms.
Right. People like Steve run those kinds of farms. Big business, thousands of hogs and stuff. But so there's a church there, which is the same as St. Wenceslaus Church here in town. St. Wenceslaus got some additions built onto it somewhere along the line, but it's just like this one, design of church, and there's gazillions of them. Sounds great. They've worked out the details in Europe over the centuries, and so I guess I'm nattering on. I either don't want to hear anything. I want silence, or else I want the clean tones. Anyway, that's my story. So I'm all bent out of shape all the time about, just, like hums and fret buzz and things like that.
Since you're on the board of this operation, I'm surprised we have so many fluorescent lights instead of something that doesn't radiate.
The house lights don't have to be on. I don't know if that makes any difference. Well, if we start turning things off, we'd find out, well, of course, the show would be off, but, find out what's actually making all this noise. Because sometimes it's not so bad in here. Today, it's kind of pretty bad in here. Depends on what's going on. I don't know what it all is. But to say, if I take this off, if I switch to this pickup, so this is what they call a lipstick pickup, because it looks like a lipstick tube. It's a Texas Special, so it's a pretty hot pickup. And that's what it sounds like without this. If I turn that on, it goes away. But as soon as I play, it's in there. If I turn the two pickups on, it's not quite as bad. But this guitar sure sounds good. If I'm going to play like loop that real quick before I do something else. 1, 2, here I go. What happened? Let me try that again. Weird. Try this again. I'm not operating my looper pedal correctly. Okay. Well, there's nothing better than a telly for that. For playing like that, but I tend to play like. All right. Well, this has been fun, but I got to play this rosewood one over here. So I have some trepidation because I don't exactly own it yet, and never mind. Hang on. Oh wait, here we go. Let's see. We turn off the volume and unplug the American Special, and see where we are with this. And strap that. One thing I always do with a strap, well, any bolt-on neck is, any kind of electric guitars, I put the strap button here. It was here, so I put a little screw in there and I put it here. So now I can, when I hold it, it's held up like a classical guitar. So. Maybe when I grow up, I'll go back to being a classical guitarist. Where's Bob? You know the joke. You know the little boy says to his dad,
"What do you want to be when you grow up?"
"I want to be a guitar player."
Make up your mind.
Yeah, son, you can't have it both ways. Is my, but yeah, yeah. So this one is look at that thing, man. This is all rosewood, man. See that? This guitar is probably illegal.
Is the rosewood imported from somewhere?
Well, they don't grow it around here, that's for sure. So, so this is a, wow, that does sound different.
But is it from somewhere in the US of A?
The guitar or the rosewood?
The rosewood.
I don't know where they got the rosewood. I watched their little show about it. Turn this down a little bit. They made a little film about it, and they said they went around looking for the best rosewood they could find for this particular guitar. It's rosewood with a maple spacer, they say. I think you can see there. It's like a little stripe of maple. But this is rosewood and has a chambered body. So this is carved out. This is a George Harrison special. Back in the Let It Be days, some notorious, famous Fender designer built a special guitar for George Harrison. And so the story goes, at least the propaganda they put out by Fender, was that they went and they got the thing out of a museum or whatever, and they took everything apart and measured everything and analyzed everything, and then they recreated it in limited numbers. And it really sounds quite spectacular in its own way.
But does it gently weep?
Yeah. Sorry, I got a little excited bending some of those notes. Because You bend it like a, but then, so I think it sounds really good, but it hums pretty badly. That's my issue. So I don't actually own this guitar. I've been going through the dark night of the soul with this. I went out to West Music last week for some strings, and I forgot all about the strings. By the way, I missed out on my free strings for August. I have a lot of strings already, but you know.
If they're free, you gotta go get them.
Yeah, if you're free, you got to get them. So I never got my free strings for August, and now we're like sailing into September, and I still haven't gotten that far. It's the farthest thing from my mind. I started thinking, wow, this thing sounds great, but without the noise reduction, it's really serious.
Picks up a lot of bugs.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know what to do. I have a, I mean, the Humdebugger and the SmartGate together take care about everything. The Humdebugger's been bothering me lately because it seems to take out a couple of, at least one or two frequencies. Like usually a high note, like. So it'd be more like, hey. I mean, what if I need that high F sharp? You know. But other than that, there's a chime. They call it the chime. Now I probably should have brought a different amp. This amp is great for. That's another thing. I got a bunch of amps. Like I've discovered that actually my Fender Princeton, which sounds kind of muddy with a lot of guitars, any kind of Gibson-like guitar that I have, you want to get like what they call a 1968 reissue Princeton. So it's there are two reissue Princetons on the market that I know of made by Fender. One is a 65 reissue, which now that I know, because I've had this one for a number of years, now that I know about the 65, that's the one I want. But 68 sounds kind of muddy with anything like the humbuckers, the things that are more like Gibsons, and the Gibsons I have and the ones that are like Gibsons. For the Fender ones, especially the Telecasters, the Princeton sounds really good. If I turn up the treble kind of higher, I get this beautiful shimmering sound. So this amp, Fox, sounds great with the Gibsons and a lot of the hollow bodies. But, you know, not so good with this. This is not, it's not terrible, but it sounds better. You get the chime out of the Fender with the spring. This has a spring reverb. This one has like a digital reverb. The Fenders have a spring, old-fashioned spring in them. So if you kick it, it goes doing, you know. So. But for the price of one of these, you could get 2.5 of these American Specials. Or you could get 2 American Specials, like a Strat and a Tele, or 2 Teles with different, like rosewood and maple, which is what I have, and you'd still have enough money left over to get a pretty decent amp, like a Blues Junior or something like that. So you get everything you need. See? So this is like really, but some people say, well, they just hang on to this for a couple of years. You can sell it for more than you bought it for. In fact, I could sell it, online for more than I bought it for. Maybe I should just sell it online and then take that money and actually buy it, because I haven't actually bought it yet, see? And then I'd be ahead. But then I wouldn't have. Never mind. Okay. Yeah?
This is Mr. Skopinski in the control room.
Yeah.
If I heard correctly, earlier you were talking about the yacht club, and I think you mentioned, if I heard correctly, that it used to be a funeral parlor.
Oh, yes.
So I was thinking, if you took your equipment and went down to the basement there, would you be able to pick up some EVPs?
Maybe. You think there's spirits down there?
One can only wonder.
Well, there are lots of spirits down there. They have bottles and bottles of them behind the bar. But, yeah. Sorry, yeah.
I don't know, there are a couple of cable TV shows where people go around week after week not finding ghosts and not finding Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And people keep on watching them.
Yeah, well,
Well, look, they're not finding a ghost again this week.
they're hoping someday. Maybe they have a teaser for it that makes it look like maybe they did this week. And then you end up
Well,
disappointed.
they do have a lot of spooky looking retinal reflections in their eyes. You know, I think that's the big draw. That looks pretty spooky.
I suppose, yeah. There was one there where there were like these ghosts running or swirling around at a gas station in the surveillance camera, you know. But what it turned out to be was just the lens glare from the headlights of passing cars on the road. But it looked kind of like there were like these ghosts that were swirling coming through. But it was just, headlights reflecting off of the dome and over the lens. So,
Yeah.
but I don't know. It's these things. I was remarking on that earlier with the banker earlier about I think my credit score is like 666 or something like that. But I'm not.
So you have cursed credit?
I guess it's actually not that bad. But see, the thing is, I'm not superstitious, which allows me a lot of things. Also, I live right next to Oakland Cemetery, and when my son was a little
Kinda
kid,
nice, quiet neighbors.
yeah, they're very quiet neighbors. My son and I used to go walking around there a lot. Like every evening, after supper or whatever, we go walk around there and argue. When he was, like 15,
Yeah.
we'd go out and they'd walk around, and because it's like this park, with a wide, it's a like one car width driveway, like road all over the place, and snakes all the way around this way, that way, and there's some statues and lots of interesting reading about who was buried there 100 years ago or something, and but we would just we'd argue because that was when he was 15 he was into it. We don't do that anymore, but anyway, when he was, so we and the thing is, depending on the time of the year, when the sun goes down early, we'd be out there walking around in the dark. They have some street lights and stuff. You can see your way around. It's kind of fun because you come upon flocks of deer, and occasionally a couple of foxes will be like cavorting around. But
Going out North Dodge last week, and there was a deer standing there in somebody's yard just watching the cars go by.
yeah, well, I live up that area, and on North Governor, and so if I want to go to Hy-Vee, I'll go up and I'll walk past the Oakland Cemetery, and then there's little streets, North Summit, and like there, and make my way over into the little neighborhoods into the Hy-Vee. It's like the old Hy-Vee, which is like a block away, was 8/10 of a mile from my front door. So I just walk up there and I do these like curls with my shopping bag on the way home because I've got to fight gravity, and frequently I'll see deer just stand there like looking at me when I walk past.
No, they're city deer. They're used to people and traffic.
Yeah, so yeah, they just sort of hanging around, You see deer. Also, one time, like for like a couple of weeks, every time I walk up there, there'd be this big owl would go and land. And it'd be dark. It's a really dark area, like far between the streetlights, and land there. And then that ended, and then I'd walk up there and like frequently, and there'd be a great big toad. There'd be something brown on the sidewalk, which I'd avoid. And I looked down as I walked by, and it would hop over there. That was by the Catholic cemetery, which is right next to the regular cemetery, St. Joseph's. So anyway, so neck pickup. Let's drink this off and see what it sounds like. Noise reduction. Bridge pickup. Okay, both pickups together. Well, a big part of my show here is trying to show people this week is to show people this George Harrison special, the George Harrison Telecaster. And then the other part of it is to try to work through my personal issues. I keep trying to talk myself out of committing myself to this guitar. I have to give them all the money I can scrape up till Thanksgiving, basically. Plus, trade in 4 really nice guitars that I have that I like, but I don't like them that much. And then I would get this one very unique. But the problem is, I can hear the hum coming through. Of course, without it.
If you don't like the sound, it don't matter how pretty the guitar is.
That's right. Well, I like the sound. I just don't like the noise that comes along with it. Now, I have several things. I could use the Humdebugger and the Smart Gate. An experiment with noise reduction of various kinds. I could only play it in places with no problems. So for instance, what I'll do is, sorry about that. I'll go to, say West Music or the Musicians Pro Shop, one of these 2 shops here in town, or actually Guitar Center up in Cedar Rapids. Everything sounds fine there. There's no buzzing. It's in a more contemporary mall, kind of strip mall. But so say I go in the amp room at West Music and plug almost anything that's really noisy at my house in there. It'll sound fine, quiet, clean, crisp, just great. But there are a couple of guitars they have that are noisy in there. I'm sure they'd be terrible at my house or here. But and when I said this gig playing at a church, which is just basically an office, it went in 3 different office spaces while I was with them. That was my gig for a while every Sunday. I would take anything, any noisy guitar there, and it would sound fine. But because they're modern, new office, office units in these new construction up there. My house is from the 1890s. Has all kinds of different wiring in it. This place is computers and fluorescent lights everywhere. So this is one of those things. So anyway, I could only play it in places that are quiet. I did play at Tuscan Moon Saturday night. Steve West was there, of West Music. And we all had a good time. But I plugged it into my amp there, and it hummed something furious. This guitar. I had my jazz box with this mini humbucker, which hums at my house. It's perfectly quiet up there, outdoors. So, yeah. These are things that keep me up at night. But one thing I've known a couple people, alcoholics who are in recovery, they take lessons, guitar lessons, and people say stuff. The thing is, you have to quit drinking before you can start working on your original problems, your psychological problems. Now, I don't drink at all, but my problem is hums and buzzes and rattles and things. So what if I get that all taken care of? Maybe the thing that drives me to be a guitar player in the first place would come out. Oh, I'll see you later.